Now, we missed our conversation last week because she was celebrating her anniversary. She was taking care of relationships. She was being a good wife. She was being a good human. But I will say, of all the weeks for her to miss, the week of the election, I think, to be honest, is a little conspiratory. I think she manufactured that on purpose. What's up, Monica Perez?
I planned it many years ago to have my anniversary when it would fall on this week's election.
You just didn't want to have to answer all the questions about, Joe Biden. Now, I made the prediction, and I still think I'm right in a very backdoor way, that Joe Biden would not be the nominee. He still wasn't the nominee. Kamala Harris was the nominee, or I want to make Kamala Harris, whatever. So she is actually going to end up being your president, because I don't think there's enough
for sure
votes for the law. Okay, real quick, let's take a deep breath, because you also have another live stream coming on right after this one.
Yes, I do. With Nate, the voluntarist. I think it's going to go straight to BitChute, though. I think a lot of these guys skip YouTube and Facebook altogether.
Well, we're going to have to kind of move a little quick, but I got to slow down because I got so much I want to get to with you.
Okay, let's do it.
But we got to tell people, who are you? This has been 2 weeks.
I'm Monica Perez. People on Facebook probably know me from the Monica Perez show on WSB, but that died of COVID with comorbidities of Jeffrey Epstein coverage and Stacey Abrams skepticism. But I am now podcasting daily, which is an improvement, at The Propaganda Report on your favorite podcasting feed. It's a daily show of news of the day from a perspective of truth, liberty, and justice. So check it out. And you can also get lots more content at patreon.com/propaganda report. People, that's actually better than the regular show, is the bonus content.
I will say this, of all the podcasts that I follow, I don't know of any other podcast that once you subscribe to the monthly thing through Patreon, that gives you more content. And I follow some, and I follow some, I follow, podcasts like Ben Shapiro and stuff like that. And by the way, you're growing. I'm watching your YouTube. Mm-hmm. I'm watching your subscribers on everything. You guys are doing good.
Yeah, we have, I know we have hundreds of 5-star reviews on iTunes, hundreds of 5-star reviews.
Okay, so, for the last 4 years, and we're going to get to your Twitter account here before
whatever you want. I'm
at
your disposal.
The last 4 years, the media and podcasting has had this one thing that has kind of tied. It's been anchored down, and everything's rotated around it, and that thing is called Trump. Everything, seriously. Yeah. We've all talked about Trump.
Of course.
Is Trump a Trojan horse? Is Trump part of the big conspiracy? Is he the savior? Well, Trump, it looks like, and we'll talk about the election in a minute because I'm really kind of ticked off how it's going. Trump now looks like he's going to be gone. What does that do for podcasting? Your conspiracy theories, though, are evergreen. The deep state lives.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you, you hit on exactly why I always thought that Trump was going to get reelected. I'm still not convinced he isn't going to stay in that seat. I think it's ridiculously premature for Biden to say that he won and for them to pressure Trump to concede. It's not Trump's job to concede. They actually flipped the script, because they were saying that Trump would prematurely declare victory without waiting for all the votes to be counted. And that's exactly what they're doing here. And they're making it kind of the point of no return thing. But it's December 14th when the electoral votes are required to be recorded. And I think we should wait till then. But the reason I thought Trump would win is that he provides a 24/7 distraction that I mean, it's unimaginable anybody else could do that. So, but on the other hand, I mean, there are two possibilities. One is meaning the powers that be, there's 3 possibilities. They can't control the outcome completely, or there are 2 factions at this level of the game, or they sense that we're fatigued with this particular show. Sometimes a show comes off the air even when it's getting great ratings. It's just they run out of material.
I think there's 2 factions. I think there's two factions at war.
It looks like it, and there's certainly two factions at many levels. It's
Yeah.
and the way I've come out is that they do scenario out how different scenarios will go and what to do under different circumstances. And there's no chance that Trump or Biden would have been in the position to take this power if it weren't for the fact that they would ultimately make the warfare, welfare, superstate bigger. It always gets bigger with every president, and any president that would reverse that, like Ron Paul, never gets on the ballot on one of the two major parties.
Yeah, I am, everything that, and I'll stick with the two factions on a Trump will not concede. I agree, Gina. I don't think you will either. But I'm a big believer of this. Think about it. They blame Trump for Russia, right? The Russian hoax. When we find out that it was really Hillary that was more in bed with Russia, as far as they blame Trump for the quid pro quo in Ukraine, and it's really Joe Biden, right? Trump's going to declare victory early, and they do. If you want to know what the left is going to do or wants to do, just look at what they are blaming the other side for, and that's basically. They're screaming, look what they're doing and why they're doing it. That's how I see it. Do you see it differently, or does none of that matter?
No, I totally agree with you there. And it's extra noticeable when you watch CNN. What CNN says about the right is what they themselves do. I was on a swapcast with a reporter, I guess, on the left, seemed like it, but he didn't want to own that. And he was really complaining, really fearful of Boogaloo Boys and, riots on the right. And I'm thinking there was a lot of people on it, so I didn't chime in. And actually, when I went to ask my question, he wouldn't take it.
Which surprises me that you didn't go for him immediately, because
wouldn't take the credit. I didn't. There were a lot of people there, and actually, I think I did get a message from the host saying, "Hey, I think that it's time for you to chime in." But when I did, the guy said, I can't take any more questions, and he left. But and my question to him would have been, he said, I'll accept whatever legitimate vote there is, but we just need to make sure it's legitimate. And my question to him was going to be, and I said it after he hung up because all the rest of us were still on there. My question to him was going to be, would you really? Or if it doesn't go your way, will you just call it illegitimate? Because that's really the pattern that you see. But what was shocking to me is the people who are throwing Molotov cocktails and frozen bottles of water are Antifa and the riots and protests on the left. I'm not even making an ideological judgment. I'm just saying, if you're going to be afraid of anything. So that was another reason that I thought it would be more likely that Trump would get it, and that the Biden vote would be reported as suppressed, is that it would be easier. It looks like it's easier to get these kind of irrational protests that local governments will not subdue from the left, that the ones on the right tend to be
there's no violence. There's very little. Yeah, there's no very little.
They bring their guns, which they make you see. That makes it look like they're super scary. But it seems to me that there's more order and ideology, which goes to your original point, which is they'll say the exact opposite about what's happening than what is happening.
Well, and if you notice, the cities are getting boarded up. They weren't getting boarded up because they were worried Trump was going to win. They were getting boarded up, because Biden was going to win. They were getting boarded up because they thought Trump was going to win, and they knew the left was going to go back crap crazy on it. Let's pull up I think it's a great comment. I know it's a serious topic. Has anybody noticed, Monica, how great Monica's hair looks today? Thank you, JJ.
I put a little coconut water. I sprayed a little coconut water on it for shine.
You hear when she says water. I love that. It comes back out. Northeast, it comes back out.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, I was amazed. I posted on my Facebook a question about keep the Electoral College, change it or get rid of it, majority rule. I had about 90 comments, and about 14 of them were like, get rid of it, majority rule. And it baffles me.
Who said that?
It baffles me. I had me.
Who's saying that?
Just like 14 people. I don't have a list of their names.
But I mean, do you know if it was left or right?
Oh, yeah. They were. Well, I think a lot of them would have voted left, looking at that. You go, girl. Talking about your hair. Wait, whoa. Look at this. Look at that shine right there.
He has
Come on
hair. That's
Come
so
on now.
great. Come on.
Yeah.
Personal best for Clint. He actually has
Yes.
hair.
Well, it's not.
It's not as shiny as mine, but
No, it's not.
best you can do.
But I guess my point on it was I did on Of, By, and For the People with Eric Buchanan and Clay Dennis. We talked about, because he's an historian guy, we talked about the Electoral College and majority rule. It has amazed me the number of people that actually want majority rule, because at that point you are truly living from one chaos to the next chaos. That's all it is.
Why do you not want? Why do you prefer the Electoral College to the popular vote? I find it actually a little bit of a tricky argument. I make it, but I'm curious to know how you would articulate.
Well, to me, majority rule is just one step away from pure chaos, because if 51% of the people can start voting on everything, peach fuzz, Clint, peach fuzz. That's enough out of you, sir.
Do you know what JJ Boogie looks like?
Yeah, I've seen him. Oh, yeah, I got the big beard. Yeah.
Got a lot of hair.
But I used to have the mullet. See, Jeff, now you got me wanting to post pictures of my mullet. I used to do this with it. It used to be Thorish.
Mullet.
If 51% of the people can tell the other 49% what to do, when do they come get your property? When do they change the rules so much that it's in other words, I think 51% majority rule is chaos. There's no coherent, because if we put rules in place and then 51%.
Well, but what if it's just they're just electing the executive, right? They're not electing. Are you saying that it de facto means there's no more Constitution? Because the Constitution is the foundational document that you're not allowed to violate.
I think that is the part of it. But to me, the biggest problem with it is just it literally is 51%. The 51% majority, it literally is chaos. It's chaos, I think.
My feeling on the popular versus electoral, first of all, the immigrants being given amnesty and voting, or popular versus electoral, it shouldn't be as important as it is. This election the only reason it's as important as it is that the Constitution is not respected. So if the 10th Amendment were restored, which I think would be the most important thing to save this country, if the 10th Amendment were restored, the federal government would have very little power. And there are a lot of things like that about unconstitutional federal law. I don't even think the Supreme Court should be the one to determine it. It should be state nullification. But of course, the South tried that and it did not work. And then even when they were forced back into the fold, the Department of Justice was created in order to have an enforcement mechanism of federal law onto states that would not enforce it themselves. So there's a real problem with that. The Constitution was subverted for a long time. And that's why this is so important. But again, as a Civil War reference, the reason, and it took me a long time to really distill the problem here, is that different regions have different cultures. Mm-hmm. And that arises from the actual climate. Like there's factories in the north where it's cold, and there are farms in the south where it's warmer. There's places that are arid. There are places that have a lot of water. And so you have different kind of property rights. The origin of all kind of dispute in my mind is property rights. And the origin of property rights it depends on what's scarce and what's abundant. So regional viewpoints on justice and values actually do differ. So when you see that the red states are the lower population states, maybe they have more farms, maybe they have whatever. If the cities, which can actually conjure 51% popular vote, could do stuff, could make laws that benefit them at the expense of other people based on regional differences. And I'll give you an example from the Civil War. So the North had the votes, and they could vote tariffs on imported British textiles, which competed with their factories. But what's more is that the British textiles competed for the raw cotton from the South.
From the South, yeah.
If Britain no longer had a market to sell that stuff, their demand for this cotton from the South would go down. So the North could benefit itself at the expense of the South by being able to push down laws that affected them. Right. And I would say that kind of thing is as much a reason for a civil war, and that's probably what you would have. Well, and that's why you can't have the popular vote if you're going to have a federal government that has that much power.
You'll see it in the populace. You've got New York City, you've got the state of California, you got big cities like Atlanta. Literally, you can take 5 cities, right, or 2 states, and they can determine what the rest of everybody else has to live by. When I was on with Eric Buchanan, we did the count about the popular vote. I think at the time, I think it's changed now, but there's around 4.5 million, 5 million votes. This was a week ago. And he said that is the difference in California. So technically speaking, if you take away the popular vote in California, it's 50-50 the rest of the nation. And he's like, think about that. If you live in the rest of the nation, you would be subject to whatever the difference in those votes are. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, that one state can dictate, if it was going majority only, can dictate what the rest of the country.
I think they're also taking a back door to this, which is they are taking those 5 million people, or 4.5 million of them, and they're actually, I've been predicting this for the longest time. As soon as I saw how they were treating LA and New York and how they were fostering emigration out of those places within the country, they are actually outright expressly calling for people to move to Georgia before the Senate elections in January.
Okay, this is one of the questions I was going to ask you, because you've been in the media and now you're in the media, but a different way.
Yeah, it's very different.
How disappointed, or how not disappointed and shocked are you by the media coverage that literally went on Saturday morning when I woke up last Saturday, a week ago today? I woke up to Joe Biden's crowned king. He is president-elect. It doesn't matter that Friday there were lawsuits that were put in place. We went to bed on Friday with, okay, there's lawsuits that are coming. There's some questions in different states. Some recounts are on the way. So we all knew that we might be in for another, Bush Gore 35-day waiting period like you're supposed to have. Nope. The media took the ball and ran with it. And now, if you do not say he's president-elect, they're putting a list of people that won't say it on the news screen. And I'm not kidding.
It's really reckless, because when you do that, before all the votes are counted, or all the period for the disputes to be resolved are resolved, because all they ever really count on is the other guy conceding, then they don't have to put that fine a point on the process. But he didn't concede. He doesn't have to concede. So they have to go through the full process. And by the media, again, this is a flipping the script thing, because before that, Facebook and others were saying, we need to suppress all election announcements after the election, lest Trump create a problem by declaring his own victory. And that's exactly what Biden did. And all these guys are following suit. And you will have problems. You will have problems. That's when if they are looking for riots, this would be the best way to get the left even more riotous, more. And they're drawing out foreign countries to take Biden's side. Right. And I think Trump's persona is created, but whatever, whether it's real or created, it's setting his persona up to be PO'd at other countries. And maybe that will be used as this ridiculous pretext for a real war that they want to have for other reasons like oil, and they can fully blame it on Trump being a baby.
Well, okay, so I think they're doing it because they're putting and agreeing with you on the riot part, because they are putting so much public pressure on to be declared president, before the system. To be honest, if they go through the process, I don't think they're ever going to let Trump back in. I think the nail's in that coffin, but they still deserve to go through the process. And I'll just be honest with you, if the court system tried to overturn this at this point, the riots you would see in the street would make everything that's happened pale in comparison. I mean, cities would be on fire. That's why they were boarding up cities to begin with. So I don't think those court systems are going to feel like they can overturn.
Do you know the details like that? That 5 million. So far, people just throw around that Biden got 75 million votes and Trump got 70 million. Do you think that that's roughly true? Are you focused on the electoral stuff, or do you think that Biden won the popular vote, or do you think that it's literally over 5 million votes that are miscounted?
I think it's a little bit of everything. And I heard a good podcast the other day that said you'll hear on the major news networks that there's no proof of widespread fraud.
Well, evidence. They say there's no evidence. Proof is one thing, but just some evidence there is.
Well, and it doesn't have to be widespread.
Just the way charts look. Oh yeah,
Well, and that's
yeah,
what I
I've
was
heard
talking.
that. Remember, they say widespread. I've heard
Well,
that.
it
That's
doesn't
it.
have to be widespread. All you have to have is a few select states and a few select districts to turn a state. And you just need to turn 2-3 states. You don't have to make it nationwide in all 50 states. Be selective about where you go with and implement any plan. And all of a sudden you can control it. So I think it's electoral college thing. I focus on that because it's states. It's like Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Michigan. I mean, to Michigan and Pennsylvania is the craziest thing. You had the guy beforehand saying there's no way he'll win our state.
I know.
You can put mail-in ballots. What is it? 2 weeks, a month and a half.
California has 17 days. They can count the ballots up to 17 days, but it doesn't count in California because it's blue.
Well, was it Michigan?
It doesn't matter.
Was it Michigan,
Wisconsin? I mean, these things are razor thin. As a matter of fact, nobody's pointing it out, but a lot of these races, the really razor thin ones, have a margin of difference less than the measly vote that the Libertarian Party candidate got. But in Georgia, that Kelly Loeffler, I think that she pronounces it, Doug Collins, I can't believe that people aren't throwing that guy under the bus. I mean, he could change by, if you think of things conventionally, the guy who split the freaking ticket for the Republican in Georgia might have changed the course of this country.
And let's see, JJ, I think Biden did win because we've been locked down for so long, and the left is much more willing to not vote on election day because they are more afraid of going out in public in general. Republicans didn't encourage the mail-in ballots like the left did. I agree with that. I still, to be honest with you, after watching the rallies and stuff, there's just something in my gut says there's no way that Biden got more votes than Trump.
But it says, I think Biden did win.
Yeah. And I'm saying I don't see how that's.
You disagree with JJ.
I just don't see how he got almost 80 million votes, 78 million votes. But again, I have not a scientist. I'm not wearing a lab coat. I don't know shit. That's my gut opinion. I will say, you looked at, I think it was Michigan or Wisconsin, the night of the election, that at some point in time, they just said, okay, we're going to stop counting votes tonight. And when they stopped counting votes, Trump was ahead.
Well,
we woke up the next morning, Trump was
another
losing.
Weird thing. I think they stopped counting in Georgia, even though there's basically twice as many ballots still out in Georgia as the difference between Ossoff and Perdue. Like, I just don't even understand how it's all that's the thing. So I think everybody cheats. I really have no idea what's going on. I think that they've been cheating for the longest time. I think the 2004 election, I think they cheated. The Republicans cheated in Ohio. There's testimony to that effect.
You stop.
Whatever. I don't care. I don't care, but the fact is, regardless of whether or not there is evidence of fraud, the margins are so thin that a recount is a reasonable thing to do.
So doesn't it, when you see that, yes, I agree. I'm not saying that there wasn't fraud though. But doesn't, it's so in our face now. I mean, the fact that it goes from being in question on Friday to everybody on planet Earth actually now on camera going, are you not going to concede? Are you not going to say he's the president-elect?
Yeah. Do all lives matter or do Black lives matter? Like, it's the same thing. Like, you have to say it. Say his name. Say Biden. Say his name.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say it's presumptive President-elect Biden. If you need me to say it, I'll say it's presumptive. You're presuming he's the president-elect. That's all.
But they're so in our face with it now of this. It is, I think that's the state media that's coming. I think the mass media is the state media.
Well, I think if there were federal elections, if it were controlled from the top, then Trump would not be able to argue that there was fraud. And I think that this is going to get people who would not have supported federal oversight of elections to support federal oversight of elections, which is a bad thing because if you have federal oversights of elections, then the president really does have that kind of power.
So let's vote on that right now. Who wants federal control of elections? I do not.
No, it's totally unconstitutional. Totally.
That's horrible.
You have no right to vote for president,
Well, that's how you get countries that like Venezuela. That's how you get a dictator.
Yes, that it never stops. And then there, I also do not feel that the federal government Supreme Court should have anything to do with resolving any of these disputes. They absolutely have to be resolved at the state level, whatever the highest level of the state is, because the state gets to choose its electors, however it decides to do that. And if California wants to give that vote to illegal immigrants, they can. They can.
Wow. So I see what you're saying. So it gets to the state level decides that those electoral votes go to the total sum. We add them all up, and that's what you get.
Yeah, that's not how it works for Congress. That is not how it works for Congress, but it is. And the Senate used to be even a different way. And now it's similar or the same as Congress. But yeah, they used to have the state. Senators used to be elected by the state Senate. Mm-hmm. Congress was popular, and the president is electoral college.
Well, come on, Georgia, keep the Senate, in January.
Well, it's both of those elections are screwy, and because Doug Collins should not have split that ticket. So Brian Kemp, I think, has been in bed with the Democrats since the beginning. I think he and Stacey Abrams cooked up that she would lose and he would win, and that she has this role to play. I think that, and then she'll get catapulted into, I don't know, UN ambassador or something.
Okay, so I have it written down because I wanted to throw this out there for people who don't understand this. Stacey Abrams has been, kind of sitting back watching stuff for the last year or so. She's inserted herself in a few things, but you still believe that she is on deck to be a major player, and she's a manufactured personality.
Yeah, created person. I have never ever for 1 minute, and Binkley too, we almost like compete for who's been more like Stacey is fake day in and day out. But from the beginning of her running for governor in Georgia, I have focused 100% on her insane internships, backstory, experience, the high school program she went to, everything about her past. Binkley's been focused on some of her activism from back then. He uncovered that she burned the Georgia flag on the Capitol steps, which set back the effort to change the flag, which she did not want to own that. He exposed it, and the New York Times picked it up without attributing it to him, but there's no question it was him. No question at all. I could get into the details of how I know that, but anyway, so then he started focusing on the fact that she has been leading this fair fight charge in Georgia ever since she lost to Brian Kemp, as if she were cheated out of that. But what really, really irks me about that. So we knew that she wouldn't take the job as Senate, which she was basically offered, that she was there for this. But I knew that she was full of it because Brian Kemp, my friend Garland, who's an activist, voter election integrity activist in Georgia, filed a civil suit against Kemp that the AG, I believe, would not pursue because of his. It could have been. I think he filed a citizen's criminal complaint against him because of how, as Secretary of State, Brian Kemp handled the 2016 election. There was the voter rolls were hackable. They were hacked. And when the FBI investigated it, the servers were wiped. So now they can't investigate Brian Kemp's role in that. And she could have cited that during the election, and she did not. And he could have cited her flag burning thing, and he did not, because he was part of the charge 10 years later to really change that flag. So they were in on something, in my opinion. And we have said all along, like, she's not done. And
she's an activist. She's a big time activist.
I think she's an actor. Yeah. I think she's an actor. Well, I don't think she calls any shots at all. I think her job, she was an acting major. I mean, she was, a bunch of different majors. She was groomed to different kinds of roles. Like AOC was Ted Kennedy's intern. And she acts like she won the lottery when she was a bartender and somebody nominated her for Congress. She was Ted Kennedy's intern when she was in college. And then they were going to make her like this. Yeah, this smart Latina, and then they decided to make her this hard scrabble Latina, and so she just changed her persona. But that was not the path she was on.
I'll be honest though. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think, and I was gonna do a podcast this week, so I might do it next week because I've been in marketing for almost 30 years, I think that marketing now is the root of all evil because we are getting marketed to every single day. It is amazing how people see something, soak it in, and then just say it out. And we act like we're not. I mean, and I'm okay with acknowledging that that's part of it. But
That's
I'm
funny.
like,
because my show is called The Propaganda Report because I report on the news. I'm a news analyst, and all you can do is report on the propaganda because that's the only news. But I'll say I was an investment banker, and now I think money is the root of all evil, and not the love of money, not greed, but actually converting your life force, alienating it into this thing that can be appropriated away from you. Like, I really think that it's evil.
wow, look at you. You're getting deep on me there. JJ Boogie, read Propaganda by Edward Bernays.
Yes. And Propaganda by Jacques Ellul.
Did you read, did you see that, was it Nate Jackson that came out and said that Joe Biden, you owe us for the Black Lives Matter movement vote? He said, we got you elected. Our agenda should be core and basically front and center of your presidency.
Well, so, I think Biden is going to, these are the two things I've said about Biden. One is, I think he's in there. I wish I could remember. I feel like it was on the Higher Side Chats, but somebody said the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. So he's got such stuff in his background that by putting him in the spotlight, it makes it less likely that that stuff in the shadow is going to come out. And it also makes him more vulnerable to being under their thumb. A lot of times these guys, Ronald Reagan, JFK, Nixon, they are in on it all along. They're real politicians, but when they get in that position of power, they don't just take orders. They think they are the president, and then they have to get shot, or removed. And I think that they really have Biden in a corner. And then the other thing is similar to the way Trump put in Bill Barr, Elliot Abrams, Mueller, Fauci, all these old school deep state guys who were involved in psychological operations of deadly proportions in the past. That is, you've got those people. They're seasoned. They're trustworthy. You don't have to bring new people in on it. And I think that's a role that Biden will play in getting in there, knowing where the bodies are buried, keeping them buried, maybe putting some old school deep state guys in, and then handlers will be in place for Kamala to take over. And she's absolutely going to be a willing student, and she's perfect for it because of her background. And, she's to the manner born, like she gets it.
Well, and that's what I think. I think he has been brought in because all the investigations into the stuff that was going on with the Biden family, that's over now. When he gets elected, that's not going to be pursued anymore at all. That's going to be done.
Unless he gets out of line. But then I worry because they anytime I see an article about the Secret Service, I worry that.
Why? Oh, we're going to talk about that one of your tweets.
Because JFK and Ronald Reagan, the Secret Service was acted in an unusual manner on the days that those guys got shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So anytime I hear anything about the Secret Service being kind of understaffed or mismanaged, I worry for the guy in the Oval Office.
We're going to go to some of your Twitter. I want to show you something. Okay. You see this? Can you see that post?
Can you see that? Yes, I want to be alone
with someone else who wants to be alone. Isn't that funny?
That is funny.
I posted that on Instagram, and then this is what I got. It went against community standards. Its post was removed for coordinating harm or promoting a crime.
Because we're not allowed to be together?
I don't have a clue. I just got that. I've never got one from Instagram before, but I got that. That may be a mistake. I protested it, but I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you.
I've never got an answer.
All I was saying is, I'm single. I just want to be alone with other people that want to be alone. So,
of course.
Yeah, and it was funny.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. If Joe steps out of line, he'll be in for a hunter body. Well played.
Well put.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was a pretty good transition. So there's my conspiracy little dive into Instagram. They removed a post because it went against companies or.
I just don't get that. Standards. Do either of our JJs have an understanding of why they would do that?
I don't get it either. I don't know if they misunderstood it, but I protested. I'll let you know what they say. I've started some trouble. All right. Do you got a few more minutes? About 5 or 10 more minutes?
I sure do.
All right, here we go. We're going to go through some of your tweets. So you just said something about the Secret Service. We can blow that one out. And we may not get through all of these because I want to make sure I give you some time to rest that big brain of yours before your next live stream.
I know. Well, plus, yeah, let me see if you like my new glasses. They're AOC glasses, so I don't like
the
them.
State doesn't want you to be alone. They want to be your loving, caring parents from cradle to grave. Maybe that's it. Maybe
true.
if it said, I want to move in with Big Brother, maybe they would have done something. Or the
Big
State.
Sister.
I was going to say Big Daddy, but that sounded dirty, and I don't want to feel that way. Let's go with
It's okay that way.
Yeah. Perhaps if a stronger candidate. Okay, you already talked about Georgia a little bit. How has Belarus ended up with one of the lowest death rates on the continent? Sister, I know this one.
sister. Did you get that joke? It's
no, I didn't.
Catholic school.
Oh, okay. No.
You know, in Catholic school, the teachers were nuns.
Yeah, I didn't go to Catholic school.
Sister.
No, I'm a Baptist. We just went, hey, y'all, I know that. You know that. That's what.
Well, I know that one. So, and UKJJ knows that. Oh, yeah, invading somebody's safe space.
Maybe.
Quite possible.
I don't know.
So what I meant by that, I'm sure UKJJ, maybe he can give us an update on Belarus, but we talked about it on this show and he gave us some information. Word had it that the president of Belarus would not accept international funds to abide by or go along with the COVID narrative, the lockdown, all that stuff. Shortly thereafter, there were anti-government protests to remove him and all of that. But I think Belarus does not have a large infection fatality rate, similar to why the Amish don't, because they are not speaking it into existence.
Real quick.
Not that people aren't getting sick. I heard from Utah, Salt Lake City, and I had talked about this on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. The moms in Salt Lake were saying, don't test the kids. Let's not submit to this government tyranny. And now it's ravaging their places. And I don't know what that is. As far as I'm concerned, it could be putting up 5G towers or whatever they're putting in their chemtrails. I really don't know, but it's massive punishment.
Where we live right now is going nuts. We're on I don't know what wave this is.
Are people ill or are they just having positive?
No, they're both are happening. Our hospital. I mean, it's getting pretty critical here. I think there's one hospital that just not here in this area. In my area, the emergency, the ICUs are almost full, which they're full a lot of times. People say that and they don't understand ICUs are full a lot because people.
Yeah, because they're small.
Yeah, you have like 30 beds. But
I'm going to invent a hashtag that'll probably get me taken off of Twitter, but it's going to be, and this is a warning. Ventilators are the new AZT. And I might add one after that, hashtag thanks again, Fauci. And UKJJ is definitely going to get that one because Fauci, AZT was for people who were absolutely definitely going to die anyway. That was the only thing it was approved for until Fauci pushed it into a first response position. And that is what killed my brother. He had no symptoms at all. They gave him AZT and he said that he died of it. And then he died. He was like, this is killing me. I'm not taking it anymore. And they died.
Oh, no.
And ventilators are supposed to be a last resort. That's all I will say. That was the traditional wisdom on ventilators. They should be a last resort.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, not funny, but it's ironic you said that because the next tweet that I sent you to cover is U.S. COVID Task Force Chief Fauci says coronavirus vaccine should reach all parts of the world, not only rich states.
And then if you see the hashtag, I use straight out of event 201. So if I remember when I read a headline to put that hashtag in, it's so that I can have a record later to see Event 201, which was from October 18th, 2019, and it anticipated the novel coronavirus before it was there, and it had a 7-point call to action that was on the Johns Hopkins whatever website, and in those calls to action, it had stuff like make sure that the richer countries distribute vaccines to the poorer countries. I mean, that's straight out of Event 201. So I actually have to do a retrospective on what has been true about Event 201 so far.
I think you're going to hit quite a bit. You ought to do a podcast. You and Binkley ought to do a special one just on that.
Well,
this is what they said, and this is the date it came true.
There's a platform, Rockfin, which I really like. I really hope it survives. It's pretty new, but you pay $10 a month and you get, it's like a subscription YouTube. It's like a Netflix. Binkley says it's like a Netflix thing. So if you join my Rockfin channel, you get to see everybody else's. Whitney Webb, Sam Tripoli. I think Jimmy Dore might have one. Anyway, and so, but they require that you put, that I, as a contributor, put an hour of exclusive content per week up. So we have to do stuff, videos for that. So I think that we're going to do an Event 201 retrospective for Rockfin.
I would love to see. This is what they said, and this is the date that it came true. That would be cool.
Yeah.
You also posted this on Twitter. Funny they are reporting this after the fact. Didn't you have this story years ago, Freedom Act Radio? And its sources, Soros resources help district attorney races to liberal causes. I've seen this, though, because I watched like people like the Dan Bongino podcast. I have watched this and heard about this for the last year.
Yeah.
Soros is a money. And he only really supports activists.
Binkley brought it before the last election, like at least 2 years ago. And then I recognized it because I remembered he said it, and he also noticed it and I dug in, like was a Portland AG, a guy, tall, skinny, white guy who put out this, we're not going to prosecute people who aggress against the cops or whatever. And he put all these, like, we're not going to enforce the laws kind of thing out. And I immediately dug in. I was like, I wonder if he's one of those Soros guys. And I found an article that said, he's not a Soros guy. Like, that's how serious it was. But I looked in, I dug into whose guy he was and who had promoted him. And that organization was funded by Soros. So we were on to how the AGs, it was mostly AGs or DAs that Soros was funding could have been, and in some cases could be proven to be, the ones who were allowing this nonsense to terrorize everybody across the country.
I think sometimes we forget the activists get it better than we do as far as the conservative a little bit on this side, is that local matters. If you can really put the right person in on state level, you can really control a lot of stuff.
That was definitely his idea. And a lot of those protests and everything took place on government property, because private people could have stopped it themselves. So it had to be, we take over town hall. They didn't say we are taking over.
Bunch of businesses,
they destroyed, but they didn't camp out.
They didn't
weren't
stay
camping out at McDonald's.
That's true. I didn't think about it. They were roaming, and then they went and
they had a base of operations with porta potties and food and everything. It was public property. So JJ, John Jasper says that the CDC saying that Belarus numbers are low because they spontaneously adopted mask, social distancing. I remember this isolation. They chipped in, they crowd-funded equipment for hospitals. So he said they did all this because their president would not act, and thereby proved that anarchy works. I made the same point. He's probably not heard it yet, or he's echoing it, that it was amazing to me that the argument, I didn't see it in CDC. I saw it in a Tavistock, in a health publication that is published in Tavistock Square. So I assume it's related to the Tavistock Institute. But the fact that they had to resort to crediting voluntarism to discredit the president and the COVID numbers, to me, means there couldn't have been they put all their heads together. They couldn't have come up with something better than that. That's amazing to me.
Propaganda is a switch hitter in baseball. It can hit from the right side of the plate or the left side of the plate. It doesn't matter. It can be turned on you in a heartbeat. It's amazing the more I watch it. Last tweet, and then I'm going to let you make sure everybody knows where they can find your stuff. You can't have control let me start over and use English as my official language because
Mhm.
I was totally going
Maybe you
Irish
should
there.
read the headline first and then read my tweet of
Would
that
you
one. I
stop
know
telling me what to do. Why don't you
No,
stop
I
telling
won't.
me
Sorry.
what to
Do whatever
do?
you want to do. The
You stop
opposite.
telling-
You should do the opposite of that, so that whatever you do, it'll be the opposite of what I just said.
That'll be 100% wrong.
No,
You can't have total control. I'm not doing this anymore.
This is an outtake. This is a blooper roll. This is for the BRoll.
I'm an actor. You can't have a total welfare state while huge chunks of the population have savings. You got to get everybody hand to mouth relying on UBI or Social Security.
Yeah. So what I think the headline was
68 trillion transfer of wealth in America is evaporating amid the coronavirus.
Yeah, transfer wealth. So what they're saying is that all the middle and upper middle class people, I mean, I don't even think middle class people have money. Transfer wealth, what they meant by that was you leave money to your kids.
Yes.
And then you die. Yeah. So when you die, and I think that a lot
I
of
give you money, then I die.
It was so weird. Someone said to me in January that I'd like a person from a Nordic country, I think, that I hate to say it, but if old people would just die, it would free up all our money that they're keeping from us. So this person wanted her transfer wealth, but I think if people who have transfer wealth, I would say that's upper middle class. Like I don't even think the middle class has that.
But they're coming after savings.
So and the small business, anybody who has that, yes, and it's not just that they can't give it to the next generation, which would give that generation a leg up on doing something less hand to mouth with their lives. That the older people, it's like what Bismarck said to the Kaiser, from what I understand, to paraphrase, when the Industrial Revolution came along and people were able to have some surplus from their labor, he said, we've got to tax that surplus and give it back to them in the form of Social Security or whatever, so that they love you in their dependence on you. So for older people to be independent, for their kids to have a little nest egg, that reduces their dependence on the welfare warfare superstate. You need to have everyone have fiscal or physical insecurity.
You know, it's funny when I look back on stuff we were talking about 10, 15, 20 years ago, these crazy things. And I've said this before, they float these balloons they start these topics, these conversations, and you think you are crazy. As Americans, we would never think of something stupid of like how many different genders there are. That's just Clint's opinion, not hers. I'm just saying these conversations, we think to ourselves, we would never talk about some of these things. And then over time, the frog gets boiled slowly. And not only are we talking about him, it seems like we now are like talking about stuff that's fantasy.
They're presumed.
Well,
and censorship and surveillance are a couple of those things that we would have stopped. We were stopping when it was overt. But then when they said you have to do this because your kids are getting shot in school or they're terrorists or whatever, they just terrify you into it.
Well, the reason I bring that up is if you look at one of Biden's COVID advisors, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, he actually said something years ago about life after 75 is kind of pointless. And have you read that? Have you seen that guy's quote? So his quote is, and I'll have to come back and get it. Let's see if I can find it because I know you got to get off the air here. I want to make sure people know how to find your stuff. Let's see here. Oh, man, I can't find it. And I hate to waste time with it. But
no, it's all right. I've got a couple of minutes.
Writing for The Atlantic in 2014, Emanuel argued that he hopes to die at 75 because living too long is also a loss. Americans are obsessed with extending their lives. For many reasons, 75 is a pretty good age to aim to stop, he goes on, noting that once I have lived to 75, my approach to my health care will completely change. I won't actively end my life, but I won't try to prolong it either.
What's his name?
That includes that flu shots are out for him. His name is Dr. Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel.
And Ezekiel, is he American?
Emanuel. I don't have a clue. I read the article. This is a different article. I can't find the full article I read like 3 days ago. But it's just weird because if you're going to bring a guy like that on there and everybody goes, see, you're just picking stuff out. My fear is you start getting that in there and all of a sudden that becomes a conversation of, well, when are you too old? When are you really a drain on society?
I don't mind if his approach to healthcare is non-interventionist at that age. However, it might be important to start that policy sooner before you are somehow dependent on the healthcare system. So if you have diabetes, you're going to have a problem not taking medical care. Or if getting 1 flu shot and 2 coronavirus vaccines a year makes your immune system so interdependent with that stuff that not getting the shot isn't the same as never having gotten the shot.
Well, also I take my mind now after all the crap we've gone through, is my mind goes straight to the extreme, and that is the government may just step in and go, hey, you're 78, you're past 75, you're costing us too much. We're not going to kill you. We're just going to actively not give you.
Seriously?
You're going to have to bring me up on this one. What is that?
Ari Emanuel?
Oh,
the guy who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And by that, I mean to get things done that you never could get done before. And wait, there's another one. Ari Emanuel is definitely Rom's brother. He's an agent. He's the agent represented in Aquaman, whatever that was called, Entourage. Let me look. Holy crud.
I'm looking up something real quick so I can.
Yeah, Ezekiel Emanuel, 75. Like, that's funny. He looks like Rom. Like Rom. It has to be. It must be. Yes. Well, wow, that's crazy. These guys are all, yes, Ari and Rom are his brothers.
See, I want to get I want to get you on that guy, because I bet you would find out all kinds of stuff about that guy.
Well, these are deep state operators. Like, these are the guys. I'm sure he's going to be, well, I don't know for anything. He's on Biden's team.
He's brought him on as one of his.
This is what I'm saying. It absolutely proves my point that I started out saying. It's like the Bill Barr, the Elliot Abrams, the Mueller, Biden. These are guys. This is a deep state guy who's been absolutely entrenched in the deepest of deep for however long. That's a guy who can be trusted to tolerate and promote any psyop that he thinks is in the interest of his self, his goals, his family.
His 3 things. Wow. 1, can everybody watch this live stream you're about to do somewhere, or is that going to be taped somewhere else?
It's Nate the Voluntaryist, and it is on. I know that his main outlet is BitChute, but I don't know. Okay. I think you can just do it that way. If you can get into BitChute, Nate the Voluntaryist, I'll be on there at 1:30 or 1:45, depending on if he's running late.
Second, where can people listen to more of your stuff and buy your coffee mugs?
I know I don't have one here. I'm in my office.
Buy your coffee mug.
So if you want to get that stuff, go to thepropreport.com and you can find my merch right up towards the top is a little hot link for that. And also we have some sponsors who support the show out of the goodness of their heart and their love of the product. And I don't know if they actually make sales enough to cover their support of our show. So I do like to promote that people should patronize them. And if you just want to listen to The Daily Show, give it a try. It's got some commercials in it from those patrons. That's on any podcasting platform, The Propaganda Report. It's The Daily Show's Drive Time News Blast, but the feed is Propaganda Report. And then patreon.com/propaganda report. I do get comments all the time, like, you have to immediately become a patron. Like, there's an extra 15 minutes a day. It's all commercial free. There's live streaming cocktail parties. There's early release stuff. My goal has always been to give the most bang for the buck in podcasting. I never want to beg. It has to be like people love it. And we just hit 500 patrons. I'm going to say it.
You give more than any other podcast that I've been around. I have to beg. I have immunity things. So I really can't go back to the office.
No.
I lost 40% of my income. So I'm trying to do this through podcasting and radio. I love doing it. So check me out. You can go to Zencast. Just look up during the break our Dayfire podcast. Now, I've got a conversation. I don't ever do this, but I'm going to take 2 more minutes and then you'll be done with me.
Take it.
I don't ever do this, but Monday I'm having a buddy back on with me, a guy, and he's pretty well known. His name is Marty Ray. He's a singer, the Marty Ray Project. So I wanted to let you listen. Have you ever heard the song Simple Man?
Yes.
By Leonard? Okay. Well, listen to his retake of this. I don't know if you can hear though.
I
Can you hear?
Yes, thank you. That's great.
Listen to a little bit of this. This is how we'll end the show today. I get to talk to him Monday. I'm looking forward to it. Marty Ray Project. That dude is so creative. He also has some great originals. So I don't know if anybody can hear it or not, but I'll put the link in this. Y'all can go check him out.
I'm a huge Leonard Skinner fan.
Check out my page Monday at 3 o'clock. I get to talk with this guy for about 30, 45 minutes. Last time he was on, he actually sang a little bit of Dock of the Bay for me.
He did what?
He is so good. He sang a little Dock of the Bay for me.
Oh, Dock of the Bay,
yeah. Hold on, listen to him again. It goes. Well, I'll pause it. I know you got to get out of here. All right, but that's Monday for me. That's me kind of giving myself a little plug. I don't know of another podcast that gives more than Monica's podcast and Binkley, so go check them out. I am glad that you came on with me. Here's what I'll do, Monica. I'm going to show it again. I'm going to keep playing it. I'm going to let you go, though. See, I can keep playing this while you're gone. I'll let it play for 2 or 3 minutes.
Thank you. That was
Monica
super
Perez.
fun. Thanks, guys.
You.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next Saturday.
I'll be
Bye.
here.
Bye, everybody.
Mama told me now sit beside me, my only son, and listen closely to what I say. And if you do this, it'll help you some sunny day. Oh yeah. Well, take your time.
See y'all, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see y'all next week.
Troubles will come, yeah, and they will pay. Find a woman, baby, and you'll find love. And don't forget, son, there is some above. And baby, be simple, can't do it, and be something you love and understand. And baby, be simple, can't do it. Won't you do this for me, son? If you can, get your love.